Why do we do what we do? It's to give you peace of mind. After 177 years in business, we serve over 12 million customers through 27,000 employees and 11,000 financial advisors. We push boundaries in 13 countries across Africa and a niche business in China. In 2021, we had over 1.3 trillion rand in funds under management and a 184% solvency ratio done under the leadership of a diverse executive team. We do all this to be our customers' first choice to sustain, grow, and protect their prosperity. It's our way of showing that we care. By awarding over R500,000 to help fight a pandemic, by giving 4 billion rand in free cover to our frontline heroes, by opening Mutual Park as a vaccination centre, and by supporting COVID vaccination programs in the countries where we operate, by creating a feeding hub for the victims of the UCT fire, by dispersing 10 million rand in relief to businesses and families affected by civil unrest, and by staff volunteerism, where our employees continuously aid those in need. It's to make an impact. We recognize the interconnectivity between the economic, social, and environmental systems we operate in. We are aligned with South Africa's commitment to act on climate change. We demonstrate it by creating sustainable practices and reducing our carbon footprint by 23% in our major buildings. We invest in the environment, infrastructure development, and social upliftment initiatives. As a responsible business, we maintain thorough risk management and good business practices, using our resources effectively to drive positive impact and financial inclusivity across Africa. It's because we believe in the future. We have invested 187 million rands in skills development. Our drive for innovation has led us to fast-track our digital capabilities, enabling our customers to submit claims and manage policies and portfolios 24/7. Through efficient technology, we're able to pay over 90% of funeral claims within 4 hours, and we continue to serve over 1.1 million digital users, while our advisors can interact with their customers through the Old Mutual app, running virtual one-on-one or group customer engagements over digital platforms in real time. It's our privilege to serve. We're honored to be recognized for our work in communities and for the clients we serve. In 2021, we scooped the prestigious Ping Award, were rated SA's top long-term insurer by Ask Africa, and were awarded Best Environmental Social Governance Responsible Investor Africa by Capital Finance International. We are ranked 4th most valuable brand in South Africa on the Brand Finance report, and are proud that our loyalty program, Old Mutual Rewards, has grown to over 1.3 million members. Every day, we continue to do what we do to help you get ahead of life.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome from myself, Ferdi, Booysen, and the rest of the Old Mutual Wealth team. If you would give me a moment to just introduce my colleagues to my left. This is Sharon Moller. She's a financial planning coach at Old Mutual Wealth. And we've got Mandy Murphy, who's one of our experienced business coaches that are there to support your practice. So today we're talking about partnering to unlock your practice's potential. And I think we've heard from a number of speakers today around why that's a pretty good idea. But where do you start? What are those first steps that you need to take to actually start unlocking this value that may have been lying there for quite some time? For those that do not know the Old Mutual Wealth proposition that well, in essence, it consists of 3 components. We've got the wealth management side, and Evan was on stage earlier talking about the solutions toolset that we can equip you with. We also have the business services side that's all about building resilience and reinventing yourself and your practice to set yourself up for success in future. And then the last leg is our financial planning solutions and coaching capability that's all about assisting you with your advice philosophy and helping you to have more meaningful conversations with your clients. Now, today we're talking about partnerships, and for partnerships to be sustainable, there actually needs to be a win-win outcome. If we look at the partnerships that we have with financial advisory practices, independent practices all over the country, it's all about setting those practices up for growth, helping them achieve the goals that they've set themselves as practices, helping them and their clients to actually reach those goals that they've agreed, and for us to be there in 50 years' time when we need to actually make good on some of those plans that were made. So, where do we start? I'm going to ask a few questions to our experts on the green couch. And yeah, let's start with Mandy. So Mandy, we heard a lot about client experience and the importance of focusing on the client experience in your practice. So why are so few of us actually doing it?
So Ferdi, to answer your question, I'm going to take heed of Guy's advice and make sure that I focus on something super practical that you can go back and look at in your own business when you leave here today. One of the reasons, it's one of many, but one of the core underlying reasons that the client experience is often not given the attention that it needs, and that there's very little time to actually spend engaging clients, is because the revenue model is not set up to encourage time with clients. So what do I mean by that? If you take a look at the slide up there, if we look at 2022 as an example, I've taken an example business and I've run some numbers. What you're seeing in the current picture of this business, I've taken a business generating 50K total revenue per month, generally increasing at about 10% per annum. 70% of the business is risk, of which 20% is as and when, and 80% is annualized. What you'll notice over there is that this business, 56% of liabilities is funded by new business, which means this business owner or this particular financial planner is spending the majority of time chasing new business and chasing sales to close operating expenses on the business. So what does the beginning of every year, every week, every month look like for this financial planner? There is a gap of expenses that need to be paid. And oftentimes, if you think of your own experience, and I'm speaking sales on purpose, I'm using the word sales on purpose, although we don't endorse it and it's not part of our philosophy, it ends up being a selling environment. Because in order to keep your doors open, you need to be out there meeting new clients, chasing new business, looking for new gaps to fill with whatever type of product or business needs to be written. And you'll know yourself that generally, in fact, if you looked at an earlier speaker's traditional purchase cycle, that can take an extensive period. So I'll ask the question, how much time is taken to generate revenue every single year, every single month, every single week, just to cover your expenses? If this is your picture, if 30% of your revenue is recurring and the balance is risk, even if you're sitting with a cushion of as and when business in there, what does that look like for you? So Ferdi, to answer your question, why it's really hard is because there are expenses to pay and there's new business to be written. So what I thought I would do is I'd give a projection of how that picture could potentially change. If you were to, same thing. If you were to slowly, and this is the practical part of the advice that I would like to give inside of this picture, fixing one little thing from today. If you had to transition just your risk business from annualized to as and when in the following way, obviously in this particular business, they're starting at an 80% annualized. If they were to transition in 5% increments every 6 months, so what does that mean? All that new business that needs to be written just to keep the doors open. If every 6 months, 5% of that new business was written so that the revenue was attributed to as and when and the balance attributed to the usual annualized, and that transitioned over 5 years, keeping in mind that you've got the investment component at the bottom, which was the 30% recurring revenue, increasing, I've taken an average annual 10%. Within 5 years, your operating expenses could be covered by your recurring income or your as and when income. And when you wake up on the 1st of January, or the 1st of a month, or a Monday of every week, your operating expenses are covered. And all you have to focus on is the relationship you have with your clients. And you can actually deepen those relationships and implement pretty much what many of the speakers have spoken about here today, which is the financial planner of the future is the one who focuses on the client engagement and the client relationship. That's my answer, Ferdi.
Thank you, Mandy. I think that was put very eloquently. So let's move over to Sharon now. Sharon, from a financial planning perspective, how do we make the most of advised financial planning, in these sort of challenges that we face? What are those changes we can make to actually overcome some of these obstacles?
Yeah, so there's a lot of work that gets done in this area, Ferdi. To actually start engaging with the client differently is not just something you can decide on today and then start doing tomorrow. And we work on this, obviously, with planners, and it takes us almost a year, 2, 3 years sometimes to get it to the place that's comfortable. But I think it all goes around this one particular model. It starts and ends with this. And I must just give UCT credit here, because otherwise I see it's not anywhere on our slides. So this is a model that we've learned from them. It starts with, it's a conversation model, and really you can use this anywhere in your life. You can use it in your business, you can use it in your family life, you can use it in your relationships with others, and also in executive teams if you're trying to make decisions. So if you have to think about that question that gets asked sometimes when you're trying to apply for a sales position somewhere, how would you sell a pencil? This very much revolves around, this is the answer to that question. So it's a conversation that you'd spend 70% of your time with your clients really trying to understand. And if you think about understanding, it's not about you understanding necessarily. And this is the distinction. It's about the client understanding more about what they're sitting with, what the reality is for them in that moment. Because when they start making decisions, there are things that we know of now today that get in their way of seeing what truly needs to be looked at. Okay, so when you start asking questions, you're asking questions around, if you were selling a pencil, I'll give you an example, what makes you use a pencil? What are you using pencils for? What is your biggest frustration when you're using a pencil? Why not use a pen instead of a pencil? So you get the client to start thinking about the situation that they're in very carefully and from different angles. And what happens is, as they're engaging with all of these very questions structured very particularly, because you want to elicit thinking, you don't want to just ask questions that they're going to share data that they already have. They must think about the answers. When you're asking these questions and you spend your time in that, what happens for them is new possibilities open up. They can suddenly see a way forward that they might not have seen before. So what we do in a sales environment is we incline to not ask that many questions. I find with the people that I work with, the clients that I work with, what happens in that space is, for some reason, we start convincing. We start telling our clients that this is how they should do things. This is the product that we can give them to solve their issues. And we stop listening at a point in time. And it could be because of all our experience and the knowledge that we hold, and we've seen this movie before, and we know how to solve the situation. But what happens when we do that? We typically become the specialist in the room, and the client then gets lost. And then when they get lost, then all they do is they accept what you're saying, and they don't take accountability for what they're agreeing to. There's absolutely no commitment because they haven't actually understood what you're telling them. Okay, and if you could just change that around a little bit and just keep asking the questions, you're going to find that what happens is your clients are going to tell you how they want to solve this problem. They're going to be the ones that are going to say to you, you know what, I think I need life cover so that my daughter can be okay if I were to pass away and she can still study at the university that we're planning to send her to. Or I need to know that I need to save more because my retirement is something that I'm terribly worried about. And that's the kind of language and conversation that you want your clients to start having with you. Because then they're committed. And then it's not, the result that they're targeting, which is the actions that then take 10% of the time, is not the stuff that we typically have to keep proving every time we meet with our clients, the returns, and that we're adding value to their lives. Because they're focusing on an action that is linked to the outcome that they are dreaming about. the outcome that makes sense for them, because you've helped them see that through the conversation of understanding. So there's a lot here, Ferdi, and I mean, there's so much more. There's the competencies you need to be able to do this. You've got to be able to listen properly. You've got to let go of being the specialist in the room, and that's how you add value. Okay, that's not why your client pays you, unfortunately, because then they could use all of the AI that we were talking about earlier. And this takes a commitment, because it does take a little bit more time in the beginning to start having these kinds of conversations. And you might feel that you're wasting valuable time, and you can't actually do this with your clients because it just takes too long. But in actual fact, if you think about the life cycle of the client, it shortens the time frame that you have to spend with them, because you don't have to keep checking in to make sure that they're sticking with their plans. Okay.
Thank you, Sharon. So just to take us back to the client experience, now, if we get this right, what shifts in the client experience can one see in your experience?
Well, everything. So, I mean, if you think about it, we've got evidence of it. I can't give you the numbers. You might be able to give us the numbers, Ferdi, but retention, your client's retention is going to be better. You're not going to have them making decisions just because they're feeling emotional. So that whole story about having to be that person for them, the coach that takes them through emotional journeys, that doesn't seem to happen with the planners that have these conversations, because you're basically going to be understanding what barriers could be getting in the way before those events happen. What's the worst that could possibly happen to you that we need to plan for? Or what would stop you from engaging with this in the way that makes sense for you? Those are the kind of questions that you want to ask your clients even before something bad happens in their lives, okay? So that we can plan for that. And when you start doing this, it builds a relationship like no other. So if your client was sitting at a conference like this, hopefully not, and meeting with a whole lot of other specialists like yourselves, they're not going to be necessarily turned by a more interesting conversation or a different way of delivering your value proposition. Somebody that tells the story better than what you do. Because this is a very personalized way of engaging. They've shared so much of themselves when they're engaging with you. To go through that again, they're gonna think twice. Okay, so it really locks in that client relationship, and it's a relationship for life.
Thank you.
Okay.
So maybe just to add to what Sharon shared, we have seen that financial practices that actually made use of Sharon and Mandy's expertise do grow twice as fast as the ones that do not, and that is in the numbers. So I think it backs up some of the small tweaks that a practice can do to get started. I'm going to ask one sort of parting question to both of you. If you walk out here today, what should you do if this is something that actually resonates with you as a financial advisor?
From my side, the first thing I would do is I would look at how am I remunerated, how am I structuring my REM model, and how is that a barrier to my ability to actually spend time going deeper with my clients so that I can create more stickiness with those clients. That would be the first thing. What does my REM model look like? Second off, what would I be doing if my expenses were paid every single year when I woke up on the 1st of January? And those things are the ones that you now need to start replacing into your day.
Thank you, Mandy. Sharon, from your side?
Well, I'd attend one of my courses. No, I'm joking. I think, you just need to start taking a look at how you're engaging with your clients. And maybe it's an observation. You just want to sit while you're having these conversations and try and figure out, how much time do you spend talking and how much time is the client responding, okay? And when you are sharing, when you are talking, is it information that the client really needs, or is it something that you need to share with the client because it makes a difference to your value proposition or how you see your value? So there's a lot there. I mean, yeah. But start there. Observe yourself, see what's really going on for you, and then see if you can turn that percentage around. Rather ask more questions. Any question's great. Just give the client some time to talk. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. I think I'm going to pause things here. If you would like to actually find out more on how to get started in transforming your practice, you're welcome to connect with us on LinkedIn or catch us afterwards, and we're happy to talk through some of the next steps. Thank you.